Good morning, guys. It's finally time for the rig walk around. That's right, I'm doing it. So if you wanted to know everything about my truck, all the mods I've done to it, all the little details, this is your video. I'm gonna go through this thing from front to back. So let's get going. But first, I just wanted to say personally that I think rig walkarounds they can be kind of a snooze fest, right? So in hopes of alleviating that, I have driven to a pretty cool location, one of my favorite spots, the Kankamagus Highway through the White Mountains. I'm parked on a pullout here, and I figured, hey, if we're gonna walk around the truck, we might as well be somewhere cool, right? So I'll give you a quick little view of what I see out my window right now, but let's get going, guys. Let's talk about this thing. Check out this view, guys. Man, what a gorgeous morning. All right, let's go over this thing. First things first, it's a 1999 Toyota Tacoma. SR5 TRD off-road with the 5EZ V6, and it's got a 5-speed manual in it. I specifically sought out a 5-speed manual version of this truck because I really enjoy driving manual. It makes it a little trickier off-road, but I really don't regret it one bit. It's a lot of fun. I just like driving stick. And then let's go over what everybody wants to know about first, about everybody's truck: wheels and tires. So unfortunately, I don't know a massive number of details about these wheels. They were a Craigslist buy. They were just like an alloy finish that I've painted black, and they look like an American Racing Baja style wheel, and I know there's a couple knockoffs of that style, so I don't know what kind they are, unfortunately. Sorry. They're very low offset. They've got a lot of poke, but they still didn't clear my calipers when I got them. So I'm currently running spacers, 1¼ inch spacers. I was running 1½ inch spacers, and that was a stupid amount of poke. This is a little more reasonable. They clear the calipers just fine with the spacers, and I've tubbed each fender well. You can see I've cut the fender well back and put new sheet metal in there to create more clearance for the tires. And I will still rub a little bit at full lock, but it's really close to completely clearing. I'm gonna tub it a little more here in the near future and get, complete clearance. Oh, and they're 15x8 wheels. The tires are Milestar Patagonia MTs, and these are really popular right now because they're very inexpensive for being such a high performance tire. They really work well off-road. I have no complaints at all. I've taken them through mud, taken them on, decent sized rocks, wet rocks, a lot of them, because every trail I go on is soaked, especially these days. But they perform really, really well. Road noise isn't too bad. These are 35 by 12.5 R15s, so they're pretty big. They're a full 35 for sure. And I genuinely believe that on an overland or adventure style truck, which I still consider this to be, 35 is about as big as you should go. That's just my opinion. The on-road characteristics of these tires are pretty good, but I think, they float around a little bit, they make some noise, gas mileage is terrible, but it more than makes up for it with the performance off-road. I do have one mismatched tire for my spare. It's a Dick CPEC Mud Country. I don't even know if they make this tire anymore. Another Craigslist buy, came on these wheels. Sold the other 3. And then that's the Toyota spare back there. For suspension, up front, I just have some Old Man Emu nitrocharger shocks with the Old Man Emu 883 coils. This is the heavy duty coil that they sell for the first gen. I know they sell heavier coils for the later gens, but this is the heaviest coil they sell for the first gen, I believe. And I got that because, aftermarket front bumper, winch, some weight up front, and it rides great. Man, this thing rides really, really well. I really, really like that suspension setup. It's not expensive, but it works awesome. And then in the rear here, I've done a lot of work. I've done the infamous Chevy 63 leaf spring swap. So these are out of a 1500 Chevy. If you're prepared to do anything substantial to the rear of your truck to increase performance as far as leaf springs go, this is just such a good modification. I am completely blown away by how well these leaf springs perform. They flex like crazy. Oh my gosh. All the Toyota guys, if they don't do a linked rear, they run 63s because they just flex so well. They're a really long spring, and unfortunately you got to do some modification work to get them on there. This is you've got to move the front hangers. This is a kit from Rough Stuff. Rough Stuff makes awesome, awesome parts, highly recommended. So this is a Frenched hanger. It Frenches up into the frame. You can see how it's above the bottom of the frame, so you have to cut a notch, French them up in there, and weld them, and they're wicked strong. And you can see they also have this skid plate on there, so you can just smash them on a rock and not destroy your hanger. They are really, really strong. And then also rough stuff shackle hangers in the rear with rough stuff shackles. These are actually 6-inch shackles. I decided I didn't like the angle, and I don't know, I was riding a little weird and I wanted to just sit down a little more, so I've drilled a hole between the center hole and the 6-inch mark. And so these are, I have about 5 inches of shackle here. But yep, Chevy 63s, highly, highly recommend. If you're into fabrication work at all, you will not be disappointed doing this mod. For shocks in the rear, I'm running Bilstein 5125s. These are a 14-inch shock. The one downside of running 63s, 63-inch leaf springs out of a Chevy, is you need a really long shock because they flex like crazy. So, you can see I've built a bar that goes up through, it ties into the frame. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, but I've built a bar. I've got some wood in my bed right now. Built a bar that goes and welds to the top of the frame, and it's effectively just a shock mount. They protrude up into the bed, mount to that bar, and I can get a good angle that way. If I didn't do that, I'd need to tilt them way in, and you don't get a lot of effective damping if your shocks aren't somewhat parallel to the flex motion. Like if my axle's articulating up and down like this, if my shock is angled too far inboard, you're not actually going to get a lot of damping. It's just going to pivot. So I wanted to actually have damping because that's safe, and so I did this setup, and it works really well. And while we're back here, let's talk about the axle and the differential and my locker setup a little bit. So it's a standard Toyota axle, 8-inch. The differentials, they are 430s out of a 4-cylinder, and it's really easy to find those. Found a couple on eBay and threw them in, you know, because the Toyota third members are amazing. You just pull them right out and throw in another one. So I threw in a set of 430s. It's definitely not enough gear for 35 still, but it's better than stock. I think it was like 390 something stock. So 430s definitely make a difference, and they're really cheap and easy to throw in compared to like re-gearing. I also have a rough stuff bash plate welded on the rear diff cover here. These Toyota axles are actually really strong. You can bash them off all sorts of stuff, and they pretty much hold up to it. The only weak point really is this rear diff cover, and this bash plate mitigates that issue big time. I've also moved the spring perches. So these are rough stuff spring perches that I cut off the original ones and rotated them because my pinion angle was all sorts of messed up when I did the 63 swap. Part of the 63 spring swap kit from Rough Stuff also includes these U-bolt flip plates and new U-bolts. So I have a flipped U-bolt setup. Gives a lot of extra clearance, and my fasteners are on top instead of on bottom, which makes it a lot less likely to either hang up on them or damage them. For my locker setup, I just have the stock Toyota electric locker here, and it works really well. I took it apart, cleaned it out, and put it back together, oiled everything, and it's pretty reliable. You know, every now and then it'll take a second to engage. You got to roll back and forth or turn back and forth a little bit, but it works really well, and I like, you know, nothing beats either a welded rear or a lunchbox locker or whatever as far as reliability goes if you really need it to be locked. But a selectable locker is definitely the way to go if you're streeting your truck at all, which I do with this thing. I drive it decent distances, and it's nice to not have to have it locked the entire time. So, selectable stock Toyota e-locker. I like it. I've also got this skid plate here from Marlin Crawler, and it's a really nice design. It wraps around the motor and gearbox really nicely, and I haven't hit it, so I don't know how much protection it'll actually give, but it looks, though, you know, I examined it a decent amount when I was putting it on, and I was like, I think this is about as good as you could do with the stock fastener locations and having it be removable and everything, and it's cool. It's definitely a neat little skid plate, and I figured, better safe than sorry, right? So whether it does anything or not, we'll see at some point, but I like having it there for sure. Also on the rear axle, I've added a diff breather extension and obviously extended brake lines. I've done all these hard lines myself, and then I added a extended flex line because I get so much droop out of these springs that it really needs all the flex line I can reasonably get on there. And I'll show you where that diff breather is mounted. It's mounted in my gas cap. I broke this the other day. There's a little tab that this stupid lock froze up and my key wouldn't work and I couldn't get in, so I just had to take a screwdriver to it and pry it open. But there is the diff breather, so it's way up and out of the way, and I'd need to really swamp the truck to put that underwater. So a little extra peace of mind that my diff isn't going to swallow a ton of water when I dip it into a water crossing. So for the front bumper, I really like this thing. This is from a company called Addicted Off-Road. They make all sorts of different bumpers for Toyota trucks, and maybe other trucks too, but definitely Toyotas. This is their tube style front bumper for first gen. I really like the design of it. It's really rugged. It has a weld-on bracket to the frame, so I've welded it to the frame, and then the bumper tube portion bolts onto that. So it's a good design, really strong. Hit it against a few things. It's a good piece of steel for sure. And then for a winch, let me take the cover off. I really like this winch too, and it's got great reviews. This is a Super Winch Tiger Shark 9500. So it's a 9,500 pound winch. Not the world's biggest winch, but plenty for this truck, I'd say. I don't do, I'm not winching this thing up, vertical rocks. So this will do fine for what I do as far as off-roading. But yep, steel cabled Tiger Shark 9500, really nice winch. Very happy with it for sure. I've got sliders on the truck. These are weld-on sliders from a company called 4X Innovations, and I really believe that if you're looking for the greatest deal on really nice sliders and you don't mind doing a little fab work yourself, these are the ones to get. These are their top of the line ones. They're DOM with a square tube base, and they're the easiest to put together because they come pre-cut with the angle that you need. All this assembly comes prefabbed, and all you got to do is weld on the legs, the gussets, and the plates to the frame. And it's, if you haven't done it before, it takes a little bit of time to line everything up and get it all right, but I've put on a few pairs of these, and it's really easy at this point. It takes a little bit of time, but it's a lot of fun to do it, and you get a screaming deal because you have to do some of it yourself. So these are half the price of a lot of sliders. Sometimes I'd say a third of the price of a lot of sliders you'll see, and just as tough, if not more tough. I really like this design. I've hit them off a few things at this point, hit them off rocks, hit them off trees. They just hold up. They're really, really good design. Just the basics, and they work really well. So highly recommend 4X Innovations. I forgot to mention that I'll definitely leave links to all the parts I'm talking about in the description of the video, so if you're interested in looking at those parts or purchasing them, just check out the description, and all the links will be there. The rear bumper on this truck is something I'm very proud of because I built this thing myself, and I have a 3-part video series on the process of designing and building this, so definitely check that out if you like it or you're interested in seeing how I did it. But it's just made out of standard steel shapes, very strong. It's all a bunch of box tubes, so I've already smashed it off the ground a couple times, and there's not a scuff on it except for the paint. But yeah, this thing is great. I wanted a swing out bumper because to carry a 35-inch spare, it's hard to find a spot if you want to keep your bed as either a sleeping platform like I have it, or used for storage or whatever. So I wanted a swing out bumper, and I'll swing it out here for you. Just pull this little locking pin, flip that over, pull that lever down, and she swings right out. Easy. And then it locks in position at 90, and then it's got one more lock at like another 10 degrees or something like that. But that's plenty to get the tailgate down, and the thing works. I'm super pleased with how it turned out. Some of the parts, I won't go too far into this because I have a whole video series on it, but I will mention that the hinge and the latch are from 4X Innovations as well. They have like a DIY swing out build kit, and I highly recommend it because this hinge is just the most rugged swing out hinge I've seen on the market for sure. Let's close it here. All you got to do is just lift this little spring lever, just pull that up, take it out of the locking position, and then catch it because I'm on downhill. And then just boom, and line that up. Boom. I love the thing. Works really well. It's held up to all the adventures so far. I'm proud of it, honestly. And every overlander needs lights, right? And a lot of them. So I don't actually have that many lights on this truck, and I used to be really into LED lighting and bought expensive ones, and I was never all that satisfied with them. So I have a combination of expensive lights and cheap lights on this truck, and it works just fine for me. Up front I have old school Baja Design Squadron Sports. I'm not even sure they make this model anymore. I think they've updated their lineup. But I like these a lot. They work well. They're very bright. These are the 20 watt. The Sports are the 20 watts. They're a little cheaper. I had the Pros as well, but they actually leaked. I've had somewhat bad luck with Baja Designs. Several of their lights that I bought have leaked on me, and I don't think as much humidity and ingress protection testing they've done, the climate in New England is something else. You get crazy humidity, you get crazy temperature swings, and I don't think they could hold up to it. So these luckily have not leaked, and they hold up, and I had them laying around from my other build, so I figured I'll run them, and I've been pleased. These are just little 10 watt pods that I have on a switch, just a fog light switch, a Toyota OEM lookalike fog light switch, which I'll show you momentarily. Really nothing special, really cheap Chinese 10 watt pods, and they're just for DRLs / fogs, and I like them, but there's nothing special about them for sure. Up top I do have a light bar. I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up and leave the link in the description. This thing's wicked bright. It's definitely it's a Chinese knockoff light, but it's a good one for sure. It hasn't leaked. It's really, really bright. It's low profile, which I like. I don't like the big double stack chrome whatever bars that they look so stupid. And I don't really like light bars in general, but this one I can deal with. It's awesome to have, and at night when I'm going through the woods, it gives a lot of light, so I like having it. These are probably the cheapest lights I have on the truck. I don't know the brand of these. There were so many companies that made these. Or maybe one warehouse that made one factory that made a ton of them, and so many brands sold them, but I don't know what they are. They don't work very well. But I have them. I'll probably replace them at some point, but it's nice to have little scene lights on the side. They're the wrong pattern. They're like spot patterns, so they're not super useful, but it's nice to have them there every now and then if I'm setting up camp or something. I'll trade them out eventually. And then for the rear, once again, Baja Designs Squadron Sport, this time with the scene lighting lens in them. These work really well, obviously. They're a brand name light, and they're great to be able to flip on when I'm backing up, or again when I'm setting up camp or something like that. And let me show you my switch setup. For everything except the fogs, I have these switches, which are just little, the safety missile style switches. Like that is, those are my front lights, and they're illuminated. Those are the Baja Designs on the front. Pretty cool. I made that little switch panel, threw it in there, wired it all up, and I like it. For the fogs, I have them on this switch, which is, I'm pretty sure, a replica of an OEM Toyota switch. I don't believe it's actually OEM. It comes in like a fake OEM package, but I don't know, I don't care. It fits the style of the truck for sure, so I'm happy enough with it. It's illuminated, barely, it's very dim. But yeah, that's my front fogs. Here, I'll flip these on too, and we can just go ahead and take a look. There's the Bajas, and there are my fogs. So, not bad, not bad. I'll throw on the bar on the roof just for fun. See that thing? Pretty nice. Light up the night. And now let's go over my sleeping setup, because this is still an overland vehicle. As cringy as that is to say these days. So I don't run a rooftop tent because I got this awesome, giant, ugly camper shell. So I sleep in this thing, and it works pretty well. I have a sleeping platform. This is not super pretty or organized right now, but I have a sleeping platform with just some egg crate material, a couple stacked up, and I've got my sleeping bag in there. That's another sleeping pad. It's all rolled up right now, so sorry about that. It's kind of a mess. But this is really comfortable. It's warm, it is quiet, it is waterproof. It's got screens in the window, so I can slide those windows and open them up, and there's a screen, so there's no bugs. It's great. I like it a lot. And I'm happy with it because I don't really like rooftop tents, at least the soft ones, and there's no way I'm going to justify buying a hard shell rooftop tent for this thing. Those are the only ones I like. I don't camp enough to justify such an expensive rooftop tent setup. So this works really well for me. I like it a lot for all the reasons I've mentioned. And then, last thing, everybody wants to know about this roof rack, and it is a really cool roof rack. In fact, I paid a little more for this truck just so the guy who sold it to me wouldn't take off this roof rack. He liked it so much because he had it custom built, and he didn't even know if he was going to be able to put it on his next truck, but he liked it a lot, and I can see why. So it's all aluminum tubing that's been custom fabbed to match this camper shell. And some of the welds are just, like, they're not cold, but they're way overdone. You can see, like, look at this thing. This thing is just beefy as heck. And the reason it can hold so much weight and, you know, support itself, honestly, because this is like fiberglass, I think. There's no way that rack would hold up if it wasn't supported, had some extra support, and it does. See, it ties through, so this is gasketed on the top. It ties through the top of the cap into these big aluminum tube braces that go down and clamp to the bedsides. I don't love this clamp setup, but it actually has never moved. I was like, oh, I'll fix that. I feel like that's probably going to fail at some point. It's never moved. It's got these huge C-clamps on it, and it's got all four corners just like that. And it's got even some plating that kind of braces between the points where it ties through the cap. So it is really, really rugged. And besides being really, really rugged, it's really, really cool. And it's unique because it was custom done for this truck. I didn't do it, so I can't give you plans or anything like that or really give you details. I've never measured it out. I've never really investigated it at all besides knowing how it mounts to the truck. But everybody wants to know about it. Everybody asks, where'd you get that rack? Did you build it? I did not. Last owner had it built. I should mention he had it built because he was a whitewater kayaker, and there are spots to mount risers in the middle. There's like little tubes that mount these like risers that come right up so you can strap over multiple kayaks. So he was carrying lots of big boats on top of this truck, and he'd drive it all over the place. But yeah, it's a really nice piece, and I like it a lot. I think it's one of the like main awesome features of this entire setup. All right, guys, I think that's it. I think I've checked all the boxes and gone over this thing from front to back, and I hope this satisfies your curiosity. I know that a bunch of you have been asking for this for a while, so it's great to be able to get out here and finally do this for you. If you have any questions or I missed something, leave them in the comments section. I'll try to address them as fast as I possibly can. And there's more stuff, more mods on the way for this thing, so if you want to see more build videos or mod videos or whatever, definitely subscribe because those are coming soon. I've got lots of plans for it over the winter, and a lot more wheeling videos coming out soon too. So definitely subscribe if you don't want to miss it. But like and comment, appreciate you watching, and gonna look at this view one more time. What a beautiful morning. All right, guys.